Okay, hey, next ID quiz that we have here, or um, notes that we have here, are going to be the waterfowl of Minnesota. So we're going to focus on maybe waterfowl is not the right word. Um, we're going to focus on aquatic birds that you can find within the state of Minnesota. We had 18 that we're going to be going through. All right, so kind of a longer one. So let's dive right on in. Our first one is going to be the American coot. All right, you're going to see this one actually quite a bit without realizing it. You're just going to think it's a duck, but technically it's a coot. It has this really pronounced white bill with red eyes, and then the easiest way to identify this thing is if you can ever see its feet. All right, it's got these goofy, almost like pontoon-looking feet, and it uses those because it runs across the water when it's about to take flight. All right, there's a video on the next slide. I won't be able to play it for you, but as it's wants to take off, it gets these feet up on the water, and they're wide enough that they're able to kind of run across water here in order to take off. There's, like I said, there's gonna be a video of it there. I cannot play it for you. Number two is Minnesota state bird, and one that we should all learn and be familiar with. That is the common loon. It has some very distinctive calls. Learned the lesson from my owl calls that they don't really show up that well, but Google loon calls. Maybe I can add some in once I get more advanced with this stuff. Google loon calls, and you'll hear it, and you'll be like, oh, that's that that particular noise there. They are quite a bit larger than ducks are. One thing that's interesting is they're one of the few bird species that doesn't have hollow bones. Okay, it has solid bones because these are diving birds. All right, they don't necessarily want to float a lot. They want to be able to dive down and catch the bait fish that they're going after, etc. There, so they have those. Very unique coloring to them. We'll see that spear-like beak that we'll talk about how that's beneficial for them. They have the white speckles across the back there, and there's a one carrying its young on its back as it's swimming around there. So Minnesota loon there. Number three, the double-crested cormorant is number three. It is a it's not the best flyer in the world. It's actually a fantastic swimmer. Okay, so it's a good kind of a goose-sized bird, and it's got this yellow beak, and it's really good at swimming. One of the things that has helped it out is it doesn't have any oil glands, and we'll get into what those oil glands do. So it has to dry itself out in the sun and the heat. So oftentimes when you see these things, this will be their stance out in the sun to try to dry those feathers off, where other species have oil that helps keep them going there. All right, into some ducks here. All right, the first one is the blue-winged teal. All right, it is a speckled, kind of a plain-looking duck. You'll be able to see it once it takes off in flight. You'll see that blue, that noticeable blue shoulder on it as it's flying. It has kind of this white crescent moon on the face, particularly the men, and then black speckles across the body there. Okay, one thing we're going to see with birds is that the males of the species are going to be the more brightly colored ones. They're like that so they can attract a mate is their goal. But they will be having those marks on their body, etc. there. All right. Next up on our list, the canvasback. All right, this is a large, fast-flying duck. It is also a diver, so it's going to dive under the water to try to collect its meals that it's eating. Mainly bait fish would be what we're thinking there. It has red eyes, and it's got this cinnamon-colored head. I mean, not hair. It's telltale sign, and it's got these white bodies there. They migrate throughout western Minnesota. Number six, the lesser scaup, or the bluebills. They are also a diving duck. They're going to have these dark purple heads to them. It looks almost black, but it's actually purple. They are yellow eyes. They're found in the northern parts of the state. They have a declining population as well. And then they have these white sides to them in their species. So that is a scaup or a bluebill. I didn't even mention, obviously, it has kind of a light blue colored bill to it. 7, mallard. We've all seen mallards before. These are maybe the most common ducks found throughout the state of Minnesota. They are common throughout the state too, okay, all parts of the state. Males have this glossy green head and a white collar around the neck there. All right, I'm confident that we've all seen these. And then the females are mostly brown. All right, they have these kind of these blue spots on their wings there if you look at it. But females are a lot more drab colored, more to blend in with their surroundings, while males have this vibrant look to attract a mate. Females lay a ton of eggs. I'm sorry, yeah, they lay a ton of eggs, have a ton of offspring. And then ducklings, oddly enough, after being born, it takes about 2 months, and then they can already fly. Here's a look at a mother duck with tons of little baby mallards behind her there. Number 8, the ringneck duck. I always say it looks a little bit like a scaup, but we have to be careful about that. Its bill has some different colorations there. It breeds in northeast Minnesota. That's its stomping grounds up there. It prefers small bodies of water and ponds to breed in versus large lakes and rivers. It has yellow eyes and a dark body. Also has those with kind of white cream colored sides, and then the couple rings here. You can see the brownish ring around its neck, and then its bill has those white rings around it. I'd say those are the two most distinct characteristics. Next up, number 9 is the prettiest duck on the list here, and that is the wood duck. All right, very colorful waterfowl. It likes wooded territory, hence the name. All right, that's a nice convenient name for us there. And then this is a picture of the male there. Okay, the male has these terrific colors throughout its body in order to attract a mate. Reddish brown chest, tan sides. It's got these blue-green heads and white stripes, white accents throughout. Females have this white eye ring that we're going to see on the next slide. Population is actually was in rough shape, but it has recently rebounded thanks to a lot of artificial nesting boxes. So we see a lot of these boxes throughout the state that have been built to help, introduce new habitat, breeding spots, etc. On the left, you see the female with that white teardrop looking shape around her eye there. So the wood duck. Number 10, the hooded merganser is number 10. All right. This is a goofy looking one again. It's got these feathers that stand up like a hood on the top of its head. It's got this skinny little black bill on it. It's got brown sides. And that crest, that hood on its head, it can actually raise that up and down. Okay, so kind of a cool feature to it there. And they like shallow and wooded ponds and lakes. Once again, little smaller bodies of water for these guys as well there. Number 11, the ruddy duck. There's a sketch of one. It also has a blue bill, so you gotta be careful with bill colors on this quiz coming up. It's got this black head with kind of the white patches throughout. And then one of the things to notice on it is its tail. All right, its tail has these tail feathers that stick straight up kind of in a fan shape there for the ruddy duck. Next up, the red head, pretty similar to the canvasback. That's the one you have to be careful of misconfusing it with. It also has kind of this light blue bill with this black tip on it. It's got a combination of gray and black feathers, and then a red head and neck to it. So the redhead duck. 13, the northern pintail. This one, you're thankfully going to just look at the tail. All right, it's got the name pintail because its tail is very sharp in its ending and makes a pin-like shape to it. All right, it breeds in the northern hemisphere, and it's got these green patches on its wings there. All right, so that's the northern pintail. 14 is one of my favorites. That is the sandhill crane. Okay, so sandhill cranes are, we're kind of branching off from the ducks now. These things look like dinosaurs. All right, if you ever see them there, we see them quite a bit in southern Minnesota. Um, Wisconsin's got quite a few. I don't know further up north they get a little bit more scarce, but definitely South Dakota, North, Kansas, Nebraska, they have sandhill cranes. It is a large bird, so these things when they're standing up like this, they're standing about 5 feet tall, and they have a 7 foot long wingspan. So huge bird, and their call is worth checking out on your own. It is I think it sounds like a dinosaur. All right. It sounds like a dinosaur when it calls, and it's kind of scary if you don't know what it is that's making the call there. Like I said, it's mainly gray. It's got this red cap on it with a white face in there for the sandhill crane. There's a look at the sandhill in flight there. All right. Not to be confused with the blue heron. Right. Blue heron, we see these a lot of times in the shallows of lakes and rivers. They like to hunt bait fish and frogs and other things like that that spend their time in the shallows. It's mainly gray. Always think of it, it's got these feathers. I always think they look like eyebrows that are coming off the back of its head. All right. It's similar to a sandhill crane. Only difference, or I'm sorry, not the only difference, but one way you can tell is in flight. These will actually, they'll bend their necks in flight. And so they make like an S shape to their neck versus the sandhill was straight out. All right, so great blue heron, number 15. Number 16, really similar to the great blue heron. Only difference would be, or the main difference would be colorations. All right, it's a little smaller. It is all white feathers. It's got this bright yellow beak and then black legs and feet with it. All right, but it's going to fill the same niche as those herons do. It's going to hunt in the shallows. It's going to spear for fish, etc. there. So great egret, protected species, almost hunted to extinction because people wanted those pretty feathers that it has. Number 17, we should all know what number 17 is, the Canadian goose or the Canada goose. It's when we think of goose, this is what we think of. It's a big goose. They can be really territorial. Believe it or not, they were actually at one point at risk of becoming extinct. There's that period of exploitation where we kind of just shot and killed everything that we could as a human species. They've made a huge rebound. In fact, now they're extending the seasons to try to control their population a little bit better there. So Canadian goose there. And number 18, the trumpeter swan. This one was once hunted to extinction in Minnesota, but has been successfully reintroduced. Really, really pretty bird. Very white, all black, bill, legs, and feet, etc. there. So the trumpeter swan for number 18. Okay, that was a long list there today, but that covers all of our aquatic species that we will be looking at this week.